So, as we continue our journey in Southeast Asia, the standard, which is analyze continuity and change in Southern and Eastern Asia, we are explaining the role in the United States in the rebuilding of Japan after World War II. Ideally, I probably would have done this before the communism issue. It just didn't happen that way this year. So we're going to talk a little bit about Japan and the empire building. First, they were an empire with a huge military let's try again, an incredibly strong military throughout the 1900s. Japan had captured many Asian regions, and they joined the Axis powers during World War II, which means they joined Germany, which is Hitler, and Italy, which is Mussolini. And they chose to attack the U.S. in a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, because Hawaii, which is the part of the U.S., is closest to Japan. Here's some of the pictures of the devastation. There's even a memorial in Hawaii today of one of the sunken ships underneath that you can go see. December 7th, 1941. It's a day that will live in infamy. And still to this day, you can hear on the news and you can hear people talking about the day that we ended up in World War II because of the Japanese attack. Before then, we were supporting financially in Europe, but we hadn't sent our military. So because Japan attacked us, we actually declared war on Japan. But since Japan was an Axis power, then Germany and Italy declared war on us. So that's how we became deeply involved in World War II, and we became on the side of the Allies, with like France and Great Britain being the largest, and actually even the Soviet Union. So they actually have to sign a declaration of war when it's truly a war, and there's Hitler declaring war on the United States. The U.S. did some island hopping to capture the islands closest to Japan and then find an area where they could land planes that were close to Japan to bring their American troops into Japan. Some of that was difficult because of the fierce warriors that were kamikaze pilots who purposefully sacrificed their planes. They're also known as suicide bombers. They expected to die. Here's one of the aircraft carriers hit by kamikaze pilots. Our big battle was in Iwo Jima, and there was traps and underground tunnels, and it was a fierce battle. But we eventually took the island. You can see the island is not so far from Japan, and it was a good place to send our airplanes to bomb Japan. Major battle. We finally did take it, and whenever we take or win a battle, we put up an American flag. Even after all this and after all the fighting in Japan were clearly losing, they decided not to surrender, which meant that we threatened with the atomic bomb and told them that we were going to bomb them. We were losing so many soldiers and we didn't want to lose more, and the fight hadn't really been given up yet. And the Japanese government refused. We said we're going to use these nuclear weapons. They refused. We dropped one on Hiroshima. And the bombs actually had names, Fat Man and Little Boy. And after Hiroshima, which was still horrific, and thousands of people died that were civilians and in military, it was one of Japan's biggest cities, they still didn't surrender. So the U.S. threatened again and said, we are going to do this. Clear people out, surrender, do something. And they still chose not to. So we dropped the second bomb on Nagasaki, which another city was completely devastated. So here's the Enola Gay that dropped the little boy. I said I kind of chuckled about, the men seemed to be wearing short shorts at that time, not the girls. However, styles and fashion are all different. The reason we dropped two There's a mushroom cloud of what happens once the bomb goes off and what the devastated city looks like. It's wiped out, almost totally wiped out. And here we are again. We dropped 2 because we needed them to believe that we had more to drop and we could devastate their whole country. So they signed a formal surrender, and they surrendered aboard the USS Missouri, and here's some pictures of them. So to help rebuild Japan, we first wanted to help rebuild Japan. We wanted them to be, we didn't want them to be a military threat in the future. So Douglas MacArthur helped them come back together, and they started with the military being disbanded and the weapon factories being all closed, and MacArthur helped install a new democratic government. He actually wrote Japan's constitution, and we still call it the MacArthur Constitution today. But they were granted some of the same rights as citizens. And we were going to do some reparations from Japan's constitution for declaring war on anybody else. However, and there's the Constitution. However, due to the fact that we don't want communism to spread and we wanted an ally in Southeastern Asia, and we wanted a group of people who were willing to fight with a strong military, and that we decided we needed a partner instead, and spent money to build up this ally. Okay, so we helped with democracy and we're trying to help stop communism from spreading more than China, Korea, and Vietnam. So, and the Japanese have always had a strong work ethic, so it's kind of led to a boom. And Japan became a sovereign nation in 1952. So, what you need to know is, after World War II, the United States wanted to ensure Japan would not fall to communism. To do so, the United States invested heavily in the Japanese economy to ensure economic prosperity and set up a new democratic government. All right, thanks.